What is going on, everyone? Happy Tuesday, and welcome into the Ryan Ripken Show. It is January 20th. It is episode 121, and Zach, just hush. It's episode 121 on Spotify and Apple, and wherever you get your podcast. But, hey, we got a lot to talk about here on the show. John Harbaugh got introduced today as a New York Giants head coach. That's still a weird sighting, I got to say, but I am happy for him. We're going to play some clips and discuss that. The Ravens are still looking for their head coach, and Adam Schefter weighed in on the situation here because there's another head coach that was just hired to the Miami Dolphins and another one with the Tennessee Titans. But why Baltimore doesn't still have a coach, Adam Schefter gives his opinion. And Cordell Woodland with the Fan, and he's one of the beat reporters on with the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to join us around 3:20. Talk a little bit about all that with the Ravens. And then don't worry, we're going to mix in the baseball talk because we are close to the season. But I guess the free agents and the teams haven't really gotten that memo because there's a lot of names still out there. And there's still a holdup on some big names, but there's maybe a little bit of insight into why. And then our final guest of the show at 4:30, he's got a Baltimore connection. He's also been around or had on his staff a lot of coaching candidates out there right now for head coach spots. It's former Browns head coach Mike Pettine is going to join us at 4:30 to talk about those guys, talk about some memories of maybe playing in the AFC North, and who knows what else he will talk about. But if you are new, hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate it. It helps us grow. And we're going to be live here from 3 to 5 Eastern time, Monday through Friday on YouTube, X, and Facebook. All right, I think I got it done now. Take a deep breath. Bali, how we doing?
I think I'm depressed, and I'll explain why. It hit me last night as the clock struck 0 of the national championship. I'm tired of blinking and football season being over. Like, it feels like I always do this thing where, especially in college, I'm going to say college specifically because, like, the first few weeks, it's like you're not really playing any big games. There's like maybe 1 or 2 good games, but it's mostly opponents that you should win, some bye games. Then all of a sudden, like, you're like, oh, crap, it's halfway through the season. Like, the good stuff's starting, but we're halfway through. And then it feels like you blink. Like, I still feel like, and I'm so sorry, I know I'm in my Iron Rooster sweatshirt, so sorry to Maryland fans. Feels like we still had hope for Maryland. Like, it feels like just a few weeks ago we were like, man, you know, this
that's
team,
where you wanted to go there?
Like, but I'm just saying, like,
there.
It feels like we are still that far. And then it hit me, I'm like, we have 3 NFL games. Like, we have 3 football games left this season.
Yeah.
And I had that realization when the clock hit 0 because you're like, oh, what a game, which, by the way, everything I said about Miami and, like, if you want to argue that that Notre Dame should have been in over them, I don't know what we're talking about now. Fantastic game last night. All-time classic, the Mendoza moment, as we're calling it, on 4th down. Incredible way to end the season, but then you had that realization where you're like, oh, shit, it's over. Like, college football, love college football. And now I know I'm going to be sitting there next Saturday. I'm going to be like, damn. Like, I already had to start looking, like, getting back into my full college basketball swing. Like, I had to start, you know, paying closer attention. Like, it just feels like it's all ramping up. And then by the time you really feel like, oh, we're in it. We're in it for college football. It's March Madness. And then suddenly you're like, it's opening day.
It's the years, my friend, they go by quicker, you know? You know what I mean? Back in my day, it used to, I will say I actually did have this thought that, so I'm 32, and so I drove by my old high school, and I was thinking back to those years, and I thought about, like, being 16, getting your driver's license, and I'm like, oh, that was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was a holy hell moment there. But you're right, in the sports world, the calendar, when it ends, you think it's going to be so long until the next thing, or this sport is going to last forever. And then you blink and it's over. Scott Hansen, like, I saw him do the sign off for Red Zone.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's see you next year.
You're
and
like,
you
what?
sit there and you're like, no, it's not. We'll see you next year.
Yeah.
Next season.
And it's one of those things where, like, I kept saying it on this show where I was like, hey, I keep telling myself, like, oh, they're just figuring out it's early in the season. And then I'd be like, it's week 9. Like, if we're not early in the season, that's for college. I mean, NFL, we still have a few more, literally 3 games to go, but you have two more days of football being on. I'm not counting anything involved with the Pro Bowl. That's not football. It's straight very far from football. But
now, unless Sean Taylor can come back and play in that game, which is also flag football now, right? It's not even.
So at least we got past dodgeball.
It can't even get that. But unless we're wrecking the punter in the Pro Bowl game, it ain't coming back. And it ain't going to be considered anything. But, Zach, you're getting me emotional and sentimental. Is this how we're starting off the Tuesday?
Well, it just feels like last night, those are my opening thoughts.
Oh,
get my
gracious.
wire. I didn't like how that was laying. That was just it, like, as I was sitting here, I was like, damn. Like, it was hitting me again that it just feels like football season of all the seasons, because obviously the least amount of games, it flies.
Yeah. Well, thank you for us going down memory lane here and getting in our feels. You might get in your feels here in a second, because however you might have felt if you thought that John Harbaugh had to move on or whatnot, John Harbaugh was introduced as the Giants head coach. You want to feel some things, Zach. You're feeling things looking at that. I don't care if you thought it was the right move. I'm looking at that and going, damn, this just feels weird. I'm happy for him, but I'm sad. I am sad. And we'll get into that in a few minutes here. But to go back into this, see, Zach, you got people crying in the chat. I'm sorry, Barb Jeff.
That's fine. That's on me. But you know what? No, I'm not going to apologize. This is what we needed. We needed the realization of appreciate these things while you got them. And, the final 3 games, not the greatest matchup with Jarrett Stidham in there, like not ideal of what we thought was going to happen. But, hey, we're enjoy it. This was the point, is like you snap and it's gone. And suddenly you're like, man, in 2 games, like 3 games, you're going to sit there in the next football game you watch, John Harbaugh is going to be on the Giants sideline.
Hey, you know what? Don't cry because it's over. Cry because because it happened, Zach, okay? So if you're an Indiana fan, you are crying because it happened, because the Hoosiers are on top of the college football mountain, which was amazing. And Kurt Cignetti is just a walking soundbite. I loved his emotion after the game. That was awesome, saying it can be done. The Indiana Hoosiers are national champions. Like, it's amazing. It was a great college football season. Miami had a hell of a year. They're going to be back in the mix. It was a great national championship game. But just like everything, the season comes to an end, and you got to have a new chapter. For Indiana, can they repeat? I think they're still going to be in the mix. But what's the next chapter of Indiana football, Miami football? Excuse me. In this case, as we open up the show, the next chapter of a John Harbaugh-led team, because it's not in Baltimore for the first time in 18 years. And officially, he was introduced to the Giant faithful at the press conference. And, Zach, I think we have a clip of John Harbaugh at the presser today. So we just play a clip of John, and then we're just going to have maybe our emotions and reactions on the other side.
From one organization to another and finding that success.
And he's a man of few words, and his 4 words to me were, change can be good. That's what he said. Change can be good. And he was excited. He's fired up for us. He's a good friend. And we'll try to do. You know what? How about we do this? How about we deal that right now? We'll sign up for that deal right now. What he did in Kansas City. Let's do that. Yeah.
I blame you for this feeling now, Zach, of starting off the show that way. But John Harbaugh, there was a lot of things that he said. And in Baltimore, it's a lot of things that you probably heard. We want guys that love football. If you don't love football, you're not going to love being here. We're looking for the right to be champions. All the things that Ravens fans had become accustomed to, John was talking about in the press conference. But him just talking about even now just saying he's in a New York City to be specific, well, East Rutherford when they play games. But overall, this is the reality. And I'm excited for John Harbaugh. I'm still excited for what the Ravens are going to do next. But this is closing the chapter, Zach. Like it's real. You're looking at it in real time. And I got to say, Giants fans, they are ecstatic to have him. And looking at John Harbaugh and his face there, you can tell I think this is going to energize him too. Like, there's no way what's been happening over the last few years doesn't weigh on you. And John is, you talk to him, stand-up guy, great guy. But, yeah, you're telling me that shit don't weigh on you when you know half the fan base is frustrated? I feel like this is just going to be this could be a really great second, what's in a play? Second act. There it is, Zach, in John Harbaugh's career. Just right up the road, technically, I guess a couple hours away.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is he definitely looks re-energized. Like, that was the first thing I noticed was that pressure is gone for the moment. He's going to have to perform in New York, but it has to feel so good to get out of the spotlight of you suck. Everything's your issue. Because towards the end of his tenure in Baltimore, it was Super Bowl or bust. And if they didn't get there, I mean, this is the guy who got to an AFC championship and hosted it less than 2 years ago. And no one, and I understand why the expectations, but it felt like, hey, everyone still was like, yeah, that's a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And that does eventually weigh on you. And I do think that this energy that John has at the moment is going to bring some new life into not only him, but the Giants. And I think that team is going to keep him young. I think they have a very fun, energetic team. I know a lot of speculation over what players are going to come over. Potentially likely, maybe a Linderbaum. Things I've seen different connections. But this offseason, we joke about the Chargers being Ravens West. I think we're going to have another team where you're going to look across, the coaching staff. It's going to be a lot of familiar faces. I think a lot of players that are free agents are going to make their way there. And I think this is going to be best for both. I definitely think this is going to be best for Harbaugh because look at that. I mean, he has not had that kind of smile or energy in what feels like maybe a year here. You obviously, when they were going on the run in 23, the playoffs was 24, it was like that vintage, the videos that they're showing of Harbaugh dancing in the middle of the locker room stuff like that. And you could feel that it almost feels like he's got that kind of swagger back in just a very short clip or very short press conference, but just feels like maybe he's a guy who has this, like you said, this second act, this kind of fresh start where he's like, hey, like I walk out to the crowd and they're cheering. I'm not getting the fire Harbaugh chants from the Ravens fans. I'm not getting the pressure of if we don't win a Super Bowl. Heck, we already saw Tyler Luke makes that kick. Steve Bisciotti, would he still have a job for a week? Like there was pressure in every aspect of that job in this final year. I couldn't imagine that pressure and weighing on you, knowing if you don't hoist that Lombardi, you're probably not here next year. So I'm happy for him, genuinely. I think this is going to be such a fun new chapter for John Harbaugh.
I do too. All good things have to come to an end. And whether you thought that it was too long for the departure to happen, appreciate the moments that you did have. And the other part, and this is the emotional ties, maybe that's the theme to start off this show, but the emotional toll, keep this in mind, even for the Ravens, them moving off, Eric DeCosta, Steve Bisciotti, this was an emotional move that they had to make. John had to process. So change is good, but change also comes with a little bit of time. And I think this is going to help John get going, and I think ultimately this is going to help the Ravens get back to where they would like to go, and that is be Super Bowl bound. Not just be Super Bowl bound, because in Baltimore, if you get to the Super Bowl as a Baltimore Raven, history shows you win the Super Bowl. gone to the Super Bowl twice. They've come back to Baltimore twice with the Lombardi Trophy. That's a pretty good start if you ask me. We're just looking to add the third here to the mantle up here in Baltimore. Well, Zach, you're a good kid, man. And all of you, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this live every Monday through Friday now, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. The reason why we're doing 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time is, you guys know, I love baseball, but it will ruin my time upcoming here. I will be getting a lot busier, and we want to make sure that we're giving you the show each and every day with our great guests. So today we got Cordell Woodland about to join us in just a moment. We got Mike Pettine joining us at the second half of the show. And then I'm doing work for 105.7 The Fan. I'll be doing pregame shows during the season. And starting tonight, I'll be running a hot stove show from 6 to 7 p.m. where during the middle of the show, you want to call in and ask some questions, you can call the fan and we'll have some dialogue. But the market for baseball is a little bit cooler than I'd like at the moment. But we're not going to talk about baseball right meow. We'll talk about it later on in this show and later on tonight. But in the meantime, Cordell, you good? Just give me a thumbs up. Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. So he's one of the best to cover around with the Ravens and the Orioles. He's also co-hosting The Fresh Take with Ben Hall from 105.7 The Fan, because Ben doesn't say his name just normally. And he's become a great colleague and friend. Let's bring on Cordell Woodland. Cordell.
What's going on, Ryan?
up,
Appreciate
man?
you having me, man. Long time no see.
Yeah, I mean, it's so long. Didn't I see you yesterday at like 9:55 a.m.?
Pretty early.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare you. I'm not the face you need to be waking up to that early on a Monday morning. So, yeah, I know that was pretty awkward.
Yeah. Well, no. What was more awkward is, Zach, Cordell won the Media Fantasy League again, and I had to pay him then. And then he's like, and I said, hey, here you go, congrats, for the money. And Cordell's like, yeah, thanks, man. Second time in 3 years. And I'm like, well, take that money back right now. I'll whoop that ass next year, Cordell.
Well, I had to slide that in there. We had to, that was just in the lowercase print, just under. After the congratulations, the second in 3 years, but always appreciative. Shout out to my championship opponent, Glenn Clark. He gave a valuable effort, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah,
sounds like a dynasty brewing.
Now
Hey, I didn't want to use the D word, but we're building something.
Oh,
it's trending that the rumors are murmuring.
Oh, they're murmuring. Okay, we ain't starting. We are stomping that out next year. I'm going to come up with a team name, and I'm going to whoop some ass here. Death taxes, and whatever my team name is, we are not letting Cordell win 3 in 4 years. That ain't happening. Well, Cordell, since you're very happy about winning, congrats. The emotion. Zach was starting off the show getting all emotional about football ending and getting in the feels, and so then that's how the theme of this show started. Where the Ravens season didn't go the way that we wanted it to. John Harbaugh got introduced today as the new head coach of the Giants, but you were there. You got to see all this up close and personal. We're talking about the emotional toll. I think for this team, as bad as it went, I think emotionally this reset might have been a blessing in disguise down the road. And maybe you could just talk about what you saw on a day-to-day basis and maybe just some of your own opinions here of this next step for John Harbaugh, but also maybe this next step of what was so different for the Ravens in 2025 that needs to change in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, I think emotionally, if you're talking about being there and seeing the emotional, I think it was a roller coaster. They start off 1-5, and then they get hot. They fight their way back into it. They're back at 500. They're healthier. Lamar's back, and all of a sudden they lose that grip again. And I think there was a situation where for them, probably, especially the guys that have been on this team for a while, they were shell-shocked. They were shell-shocked. I think it took some time for them to probably admit that their issues were their issues, because they're so used to being good enough, to go out there, and especially like their issues at home. That's unheard of for them. So I think that it was tough for them to come to grips with so many unusual flaws, so many unusual situations where they would normally be dominant, but this time around they're not, and they're not able to kind of fix it. Everybody's waiting around. They look around the locker room. You see all these great individual players, and you're just asking yourself, like, why isn't this working? Why aren't we able to fix it? And nobody could probably come up with the answers, or they knew the answers and they just weren't able to do it. I mean, football is pretty simple. You either do or you don't. And they just weren't able to. And I think that's just something that was probably hard for them to come to grips with, considering how much success a lot of them have had throughout their careers, especially here in Baltimore. In terms of John, this is a fresh start. And I think that in itself is good for him and the Ravens, to be honest with you. All good things come to an end. And not many coaches can say that they held the same job for 18 years. So even though it ended poorly, and that's usually the way it goes when you hold on probably a little longer than you should have. It's like a relationship. You're hanging in there and you probably know it should be over. But the longer you stay in there, you're going to resent each other. It's just going to get worse. So I think that's what it was for the Ravens. Even Steve Bisciotti said it was time. It got stale. We all saw it. And so imagine those guys being a part of it, living it every day. They feel it. So I do think this will be a good fresh start for John. I am curious to see what this media dynamic looks like for him in New York. But it is a kind of a blessing in disguise, to where I don't think those expectations that he is used to having in Baltimore on a year in and year out basis, he won't have that right away in New York. I get it. He's talking Super Bowls and winning right away. Realistically, that Giants team needs some work, and I do think they'll give him the time to put it together.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fresh start. You're re-energized, and the expectations, at least for right now, are lowered. Because let's just say the Giants struggle next year, Cordell. Joe Shane's job might be more on the line. They could move the GM and keep John, and it keeps moving, right? Like if they win 8 games,
right,
people feel better about it. They go to the playoffs. Ian O'Connor yesterday had been following, John around from The Athletic, and he made the joke yesterday to us that, they win 8 games, they're going to build John a statue. Like it's the Giants have been down bad for a while, and they're just trying to right the ship and move in a positive direction. Meanwhile, in Baltimore, Cordell, there's some things that are yet to be decided. Now, other head coaches have started to plop up and be decided in other places. Stefanski's down with the Falcons. You saw Robert Saleh and Hafley just got hired with the Titans and the Dolphins, respectively. Who else am I missing? I'm missing one more. Am I not? No. Those 3?
I think that's it.
That's it right now? So 3 are hired. There's 2 coveted spots. One came open because of Sean McDermott being let go. So the Bills and Ravens, it's going to draw a lot of attention because of the quarterbacks. But, Cordell, we're going to play a clip from Adam Schefter here. And I want us to talk about this. Because Adam's saying while teams are jumping to make moves, the Ravens are kind of doing what the Ravens always do. They're letting it come to them. They're letting the situation happen, and they'll make the right move at the right time. So, Zach, let's play that clip.
Ravens are approaching this hiring cycle, to me, is very similar to the way that they draft. They sit back at the end of the round. They watch all the teams in front of them make their moves, and then the Baltimore Ravens step in and make their selection with whatever greatness is left, whether that's Lamar Jackson at 32 or Kyle Hamilton at 14 or whatever it is. And I feel like in their coaching process, they're doing the same thing. They're sitting back. They're letting Atlanta hire. They're letting Miami hire. They're letting Tennessee hire. And these would not have been the hires that the Ravens would have made anyway. So all these candidates are coming off the dance floor. And then in the end, they're going to pick some guy that's going to come in there and probably be as much of a success as a coach as many of their top draft picks have been.
So that was Adam Schefter on the Adam Schefter podcast here. So, Cordell, I mean, Adam, I have some agreement with Adam on that where the Ravens' track record speaks for itself. You know, they've done a good job evaluating talent. Best available player typically has been their motto in the draft. They don't overreach too much. They see what's there and make the most of it. Now, head coaching philosophy, at least, I mean, they haven't had to make a decision for 18 years. Now, their last two head coaches each have a Super Bowl victory, Brian Billick and John Harbaugh. But maybe a little bit of your thoughts weighing in, because there are still a lot of great candidates out there, and the Ravens might have to wait a little bit longer, right? Because this patience, at least, their new head coach might still be in the postseason right now. Cordell, talk to me about it.
Yeah, I think that's the big part of it. I think that they are being patient, and not that that they were ever going to feel forced to be in a rush anyway. But like you said, their next coach could still be coaching right now. I do think they're going to give Kubiak a serious look. And so I think that they're patient kind of by default, because they kind of have to be, and they should be. Look, I understand his analogy of what he's saying of how they approach the draft, and they're kind of doing it similarly here. That is kind of how they operate, even seeing a right player, right price motto. It's all the same thing. They like things to happen organically, and if it's meant to be, it'll happen. I do think that they have earned the right for people to believe in them in terms of the coaching search to a degree, because history has shown, like you said, it works out for them more times than not. Their last two coaches, and basically that's over the span of almost my entire lifetime, they've won Super Bowls, two of them. So I think yes, and that, but this process is going to be a little different considering Eric's leading this. This is his first time having this role in this type to fill this type of spot on their coaching staff. So it's not necessarily the exact same business as usual for the Ravens. I just think that that's their formula kind of for everything. And that's kind of Schefter's point. But I think that they're being patient by default, although with that Bills opening, I would definitely, if there's a guy out there that they love, that they want, they probably should jump on that sooner than later, before Buffalo gets snatched up, or Pittsburgh even though that roster isn't comparable. I think organizational stability is very important for a head coach coming in, and Pittsburgh offers that.
It's a good point. I mean, I was going to say, what are the top jobs still available, Zach? I mean, like, if you're going the Pittsburgh one, you would say it's a top job based off the organizational's track record. They don't hire many head coaches. They stick with them, and there's stability there. And then if you're looking at the next two options, the Ravens and Bills, I think speak for themselves, Zach, but get in the conversation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the Cordell, kind of what you were just saying, I don't know if they're patient because they want to be, or now it's more forced, because if it was up to them, I think they would like to have their head coach right now, you know, but because of the rules with Kubiak, with Shula, whoever they may be targeting still, that, I mean, there's up to like 6 candidates that are still, you know, Webb, that are still busy. And it does feel like, though, as they've gone on and this patience, it's gotten harder because, well, suddenly it was the Ravens are by far the best destination. Then it was, Pittsburgh gets added in, but it's close, but the Ravens are still the best destination. Then Buffalo gets added in. You're like, I think the Ravens are still the best destination. So, Cordell, for you, how big of an impact do you think that maybe this changes how the Ravens maybe go about it? Are they more aggressive, or do you think, kind of like what Adam said, are they going to sit there and they're going to go, hey, we're the Ravens. This is how we do this. We know who we want. We're going to go get our best guy. Or do you think maybe there's a little bit more pressure now that Buffalo and Pittsburgh, hey, they're two really good organizations now looking for a new head coach?
Well, I think if they are going to take the mindset of we're going to go get the best guy, which they should, that should be the mindset that they have. By default, you're going to have to be a little aggressive with that, right? Because there are other teams that can offer similar things that you can offer. The Bills can offer a top tier quarterback, the leading rusher in the NFL. They've got talent on both sides of the ball. Pittsburgh, like we said, the same organizational stability that the Ravens offer, Pittsburgh offers that exact same thing over there in the same division. So they are going to have to be somewhat aggressive in their courting for these guys. And when they do start to go through this process and figure out who that guy is, I mean, Steve already said it's ultimately his decision, but everybody needs to have, whoever does have a voice needs to let that voice be heard. It is kind of that time Eric in the past has talked about in the war room for the draft. They want to see their scouts standing on the table fighting for certain guys. That needs to be what's happening in those meetings when they do get a chance to have their voice heard, because there's no point in waiting until after the fact and now guys are upset. This is a pivotal hire. You can't go from John to, whatever's left. We'll wait and be patient and take whatever's left from the field.
Yeah, and it real fast. Right? It did feel like, to kind of start the cycle, you felt like, and I even came out and said it a few times, I thought the cycle was going to wait on the Ravens. I thought John Harbaugh would obviously go do what he needed to do, but so many candidates, until they were told by the Ravens, hey, no thanks, they were going to wait for the Ravens job. But then Pittsburgh popped up, then Buffalo pops up, and suddenly there's more competition. You can't just say, hey, we are by far the best team available. If you are a incumbent head coach, you're going to want to be here, because like you just brought up, Ravens have a top, an elite top 3 quarterback and a top rusher. They got that in Buffalo. It's like, you have organizational stability. They got that in Pittsburgh. It does feel like now the Ravens, it went from the Ravens are a tier above everyone to now there's just this separate tier of top teams with the Steelers, Bills, and Ravens that are going to fight each other for maybe who they think is the best candidate.
Yeah, I mean, also the other thing, Cordell, like, to go off with this, and Zach, to your point, here's the thing, is what does each candidate want and what does that organization look for? Now, we can say that each coach wants to win. Hey, you want to go to an organization and win a Super Bowl. I mean, that's the no shit moment, right? But in my mind right now, are you looking for the next guy, the next head coach that's going to be the Sean McVay hire, right? Are you looking for a guy like that, where transformative, young genius and a specialist as an offensive mind? And obviously Sean McVay right now, the Rams looking to go to their 3rd Super Bowl, right? With Sean McVay, and trying to win their 2nd with him and Matthew Stafford. But where I sit here is, Sean McDermott getting fired. Like, that one threw me through a loop. Does a team want to get a guy that's proven it? Like, I don't know where even Sean McDermott would go right now. I don't think he comes to Baltimore, Cordell.
Right.
Because there's a similarity to him and John Harbaugh. But maybe I could see Sean McDermott going to Pittsburgh. Makes sense. Do they want to get younger? I think it's truly whatever the value of what each organization wants. And above all, I guess maybe the personnel. Ian O'Connor made the comment about, who do you like more? Who are you going to invest into or be attached to? Because we know with head coaches, you are attached by the team's success, and usually that can be at the fate of your quarterback. So it's I don't know exactly where it's going to go, Cordell, but are you leaning with me that this feels like it's going to be a first-time head coach? I thought for the longest time it wasn't, but the more that time goes on, I think we might see that whole speak by Bisciotti. I don't know if he's looking at the guru offensive defensive coordinator from 5-6 years ago anymore. As time goes on, I don't know if that's going to be a fit.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse Minter, I think, has always kind of been the slight favorite for the job, at least in my mind. The ties to the organization, he fits the description of kind of what they're looking for, especially on the weakest side of the ball. that they have right now, which is defense. And when you heard Steve Bisciotti talk last week, he said he wanted an X and O's guy. So in my mind, I do think that if they were going to go for a guy who has a specialty in offense or defense, I think that they would probably lean defense. Offensively, you can get a good OC to work. We've seen Lamar in a system that's kind of elementary, that's kind of one-dimensional, does heavy with the run game, limited in the pass game, especially as the year goes on. We've also seen him in a heavily quarterback-friendly offense that allows him to have more control, that allows him to throw the ball all over the field. He can kind of make water out of wine, so to speak. So I do think defensively is where they're going to look. I think that brings in the Jesse Minters, but I also think it's important when you talk about what are the Ravens looking for, I think relationship matters to them. I think they do want a guy that they can see themselves coming to work to do. Not necessarily Steve, because he's not there every day, but Eric and those guys that are going to be there, Sashi and Ozzy and those guys that are there every day. I think they do want somebody else that isn't a pain in the butt to work with, that knows football, that can relate to the guys, that can get the most out of the guys. I think they look at this roster, and you've heard Steve say they underachieve too many times. I think that they're looking for a coach that can raise their floor right now. He doesn't have to be necessarily the greatest X's and O's coach, because if we're being honest, the best offensive mind available right now is probably Mike McDaniels, but I don't know if anybody really wants to hire him as a head coach right now. They love him as an OC, but not a head coach, because you don't know if he's a true leader of men. I think that they are, and that's what Weaver provides, who's getting a second interview. But the thing with Weaver is, like, sure, that Miami defense was solid this year with him, but what's his track record in terms of having real control and real power and getting success when he's in that position? So it's a lot of questions for all these guys. In reality, they're taking a shot on whoever they bring on, because they either don't have experience, or where they do have experience, they didn't have success. So that's where all these candidates do kind of go hand in hand.
You know what I wonder here as we've been talking about this to kind of wrap up this conversation? And not that this should be a reason to hire or not hire someone, but I'm curious with Jesse Minter. We're talking about ties. And if you're saying about you're trying to bring back an identity, is there any, and not that I feel this way, I want to emphasize that, not that I feel this way, but Jesse Minter having the connection with the Ravens to start, then you have connections with another Harbaugh out in LA with the Chargers. Is there something there that they would want to try to create a different path? Because there is going to be a lot of probably certain qualities that rub off from some of the candidates. And look, I think that isn't a problem in my mind at all. I want to emphasize that. But is that something that maybe would need to be considered, moving forward? Because I look at like the Rams, Cordell, and that's a different style. But if you're starting to see the McVay tree a little bit, there's been some really interesting ones that have left the McVay tree that have gone off and had success. And correct me if I'm wrong, then Kevin O'Connell is a McVay disciple, correct? He was at the Rams. I was right with that?
Well, I got you. They're both kind of from the Shanahan tree. They were both in Washington, but sure, yeah.
Shanahan, but McVay, however you want to, but he got hired off of McVay's staff.
Right.
So I guess point being is different tree. Is that going to come into factor here when you're going with the leader of men, but you know what? We want to add a little bit of a different flavor to this.
Because I think they should. So I think they should. I think, if you're, and I've used the dating analogies because essentially that's what they're doing right now. They're dating. They're going through these candidates after an 18-year relationship. It's over, and now they're moving on, and they're in the world of unknowns. But as you're looking for the next, you have a type. You have a type, and so in the next one, they probably will have some sort of qualities from the last one because that's what you like. Now, like I said, I'm in the mindset of I do think they need to look at a different tree. I do think they need to see what some of these other roads look like, because the one thing that I feel like the Ravens have lacked, offensively at least, is just creativity. And you talk about the McVay tree. That's one thing that all of those guys from that tree, from the Shanahan tree, they are in a world of their own when it comes to the creativity. And I look at the Ravens' lack of red zone success, and while a huge part of that is because of the offensive line being as bad as it was, I also think they lack that creativity to be able to break tendency, to catch defenses on their heels. So that is something that I think that they need to incorporate in this next era of the Ravens. Just that element of surprise, that nothing is off the table. I used to say, look, I feel like in some of these coach meetings, it wouldn't surprise me just if there's you have some of the meetings where they're just like, there are no bad ideas. I feel like there were probably times where they were just like, that's probably a bad idea. Whereas a guy like Andy Reid, he's acknowledged Patrick Mahomes at times is drawing up plays in the dirt and bringing them to him, and they pull them out every now. It's just, that's, I think, what the Ravens could use. So I'm curious to see what it is that they're looking for, but I agree with you. I think that they should go away from what their usual type is. It's okay. It may be different and it's unknown, but it could be good.
It could be good. But you know whose tree it actually might end up being, Zach? The tree where all these head coaches are possibly popping up this year?
Where?
Might be the Mike Pettine 2014 tree with the Browns. Cordell, have you seen who Mike Pettine's coaching staff was when he was with Cleveland?
I saw a little bit of the screenshot that you had. It looked pretty good.
Yeah, so here was the list. This was the 2014 coaching staff. Zach, can you pull up that real quickly, actually? Is that possible? Mm-hmm. So I'll list off some names right now. But Kyle Shanahan, Aaron Glenn, Jeff Hafley just named the Dolphins head coach, Anthony Weaver, Mike McDaniel, Mike LaFleur, and then the next year when Shanahan left, Kevin O'Connell joined the staff as the quarterback coach. It might have not worked out with the Cleveland Browns, but damn. Yeah, and it might have not worked out in the last decade there. But, I mean, hey, that's wild to me.
These are the screenshots you see, and you, like, genuinely sit there and you're like, how do you not win?
Right.
Like,
well, they had some issues in 2014.
That's a whole different thing. But you look at this, you're like, how did we not keep this under control with this much talent on the coaching staff?
I mean, you need the players, man. You need that's football. They say boxing is the perfect science, and it is. But football is also cut from that same cloth, man. You need everything to go right.
Damn right you do. Well, hey, Cordell, before I let you get out of here, let's end on a lighter note of you covering the season. All right, could be one of the best moments for you, or maybe one of the funniest moments behind the scenes that you enjoyed. That you're like, all right, damn, that's pretty funny. Because we always know things happen behind the scenes or while you're covering a game, or if you were just watching a great moment and you were in it and you're like, damn, this is cool. Anything that stands out from you in 2025, 2026, covering the Baltimore Ravens?
Oh, man. I do have a funny media story, but I don't think it's my story to tell. So I'm not going to tell that one.
Okay.
But I will say, if you talk about a cool moment, I thought the Steve Bisciotti press conference was a really cool moment. Maybe it's because it's recent, but that was my first time being able to be there to talk to Steve. And I've been telling people, like, real power was in the building that day in terms of, like, people who really have their finger on the button. Oh, that dude's finger is on the button, and he was letting it be known that day. And so we talked to John Harbaugh 3-4 times a week. We talked to Eric a couple of times, and these guys, like, they're only willing to say but so much, and sometimes because they may not be able to say more than what they're saying. But Steve, he's gonna say whatever he wanted to say. So just to be there for him to be as unfiltered as he was, so many viral moments came from that presser. And that was that's a big day in Baltimore sports history, to be honest with you. They don't pick a new head coach every day. So that was just one of the cooler moments for me this year, just to see a man that's really in power of an NFL organization really get up there and speak his mind. That was pretty cool.
Well, and you said the feeling when you were listening from afar, or watching on TV or your laptop, I could feel the message, but in there was everyone kind of looking around being like, oh no, Steve, you stop for a second.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Steve's hilarious, but you're like, I don't want to mess with Bisciotti, man. Like that dude, it kind of stopped you in your tracks, at least in my sense. Like everyone.
For sure. I mean, you got to a point in the presser where you're looking around and everybody's locked in because you just don't know what he's about to say next. And, I'm sitting there, the question from Jerry Colbert, and he's asking him, if Tyler Luke makes that kick, is John still hitting? He's like, without a blink for a week. I'm just like, oh, okay. All right, Steve, keep it above the belt. But all right, that's what we doing today. I'm here for this. I'm here for this. Let's end the season on a comedic note, for me at least.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. You've done a great job. It's been fun. One of the perks I've had of doing work with the Fan is I got to hang out and spend more time with you. You might piss me off in fantasy football. You're welcome for George Kittle down the stretch.
I do thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome for that. All right. But for those that don't know where you are, where can they follow you and everything else you're doing?
Yeah, man. Appreciate you guys having me on. You can follow me on any social media at Cordell Woodland. You can catch my show with my co-host Ben Hall Thursday evenings from 7 to 9, following Ryan's Hot Stove right on the Fan on the Odyssey app. And we're live on YouTube now as well. So you can watch us while you listen to us.
Hell yeah. Wait a minute. You said Thursday?
Yeah, we're Thursday nights.
Oh, man. So I got to see you tomorrow now.
Yeah, you do. God, you got to see me twice in a week.
Damn.
Man. Sorry to hear that.
Damn, it's tough. Well, hey, Cordell, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow night, all right?
Yeah, man, I'll see you.
All right, Cordell, everybody.
It's also definitely Tuesday.
What?
Today is Tuesday.
Oh, then it's Thursday. Shit.
It took me a second. I was like, yeah.
I feel like it's Wednesday.
When there is a Monday holiday, nothing, the rest of the week doesn't exist. Because I went through the entire, we had a show yesterday.
We did.
And I still was fully on today's Monday. I think that's just how it works. When there's that
So you think it's Monday today. I think it's Wednesday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's what I'm saying is there is no, when you have a Monday holiday, I feel like that whole week is just messed up for everyone.
Yeah. Everything gets messed up. It really does. But, I got to say, the holidays are great. I love the holidays more when I'm not working, but it does throw off your week. Usually it's in a positive way where you can look at it of, I only have 4 days left in the week if you're off, right? Well, in this case, it's not. I think it's Wednesday. Maybe what grinds my gears right now is that I haven't figured out January yet. I haven't figured out 2026, and it's bothering the hell out of me trying to plan what we're doing. So it's not that I'm upset about the planning, Zach, but clearly I'm sometimes, if we're going by emotion as the theme of the show today, I'm sometimes in a glass case of emotion. Today, I'm in a little bit of a glass case of emotion. And what grinds my gears is I think that you brought me there. I think you did this today.
Yeah.
You happy?
Yeah. Feeling pretty good about that.
Deep breaths. Deep breaths. It's not you all. It's me. By me, it's Zach. But if you are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We are live Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook. And then listen on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Upload the episode later in the evening So you guys can get all of the information however you want. But if you are listening on the podcast, leave us that review. Give us 5 stars if you think we're that good. If not, that's fine too. All the feedback is so helpful. We're trying to make this better for each and every one of you. And we have one hell of a 2026. If I'm going to take the emotion to a happy, Zach, what I'm really excited about is what we are doing in 2026. And we do have so many great opportunities ahead of us, which are going to start here in the next couple weeks. And what's going to start as we get into baseball season and beyond. It's just the beginning here for the Ryan Ripken Show and the Ryan Ripken Media Network. I will not call it an empire, Zach. Will not do it.
Suit yourself.
Suit yourself.
That's a Kevin thing. Suit yourself. You're just making him disappointed.
Oh, well, I disappoint everybody. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem, Zach.
Yeah.
It's me. What do you got?
Real fast, if we want to do a quick game of big deal, not big deal. John Harbaugh, when talking to the media today, did not thank, for the second time in any public setting, did not thank Baltimore fans or Eric DaCosta. Mentioned everyone but Eric again. Big deal or not a big deal?
Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. At all. I understand. And maybe we'll have another time where we can talk about that, maybe on this program, where we can get more of a clarification about that, Zach. How about that?
Yeah. No, and I think it became more of a story because Sean McDermott was so open about how much he's going to miss the fans and everything. And then I think people in Baltimore were like, oh, John's going to, in his thanking the city and stuff, would thank the fan. But, we'll see. We'll see. So you're saying not a big deal?
Not a big deal. You're trying to stir some things up.
I'm not trying. I'm asking because I've seen a lot of people. The only reason I asked you is because the big thing on the internet right now is that they're making it a big deal that he didn't. So I was wondering if you thought big deal, not a big deal. I just wanted to know. I'm just instigating. I'm just trying to get something going here.
Well, you're instigating. Well, you know what? We'll have to get to the bottom on it. We'll get to the bottom.
Let's do it.
Maybe we'll have those comments clarified. Write that down, Zach. Can you write that down, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Write that down.
I'll write something down to have Nate write that down.
Yeah. Write that down so Nate can write that down. Would be fantastic. Well, we will get into a little bit more football talk with Mike Pettine here, former Browns head coach. Spent some time here with the Ravens during his coaching tenure. I think it's still crazy as this list, Zach. This list here is still insane.
Yeah.
That was his coaching staff. Now, Jeff Hafley has just become the Dolphins' new head coach. Aaron Glenn is currently the head coach of the Jets. Kyle Shanahan, he's turned out pretty good. Now, Shanahan did move on, but still, Shanahan's considered one of the best coaches. Anthony Weaver might become a head coach this offseason. Mike McDaniel has been a head coach. Mike LaFleur could be well on his way. And then how about the next one was Kevin O'Connell that joined that staff. That is pretty damn impressive. But before we get back into more football, I know a lot of people want to talk about baseball.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about baseball?
We want to.
Do we?
Hop in.
Well, I know a lot of people wanted to talk about how they felt about Justin Verlander. We put that out on X. A lot of meh. A lot of why, a lot of, hey, actually, or some, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I would like that. And others of being like, here we are again, dumpster fire, sell the team. This team sucks. Fire everybody. So there's like a mixture of those comments. But the reality is right now, Zach, like I was hoping that this market was going to move because I got to talk about it tonight, and I got some topics that need to be talked about, but it's around kind of the headliners of what could happen, not what has happened. We saw the flurry of moves, back to back to back to back with Bregman and Ranger Suarez and Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette. And you felt like, all right, now let's hear Framber Valdez and Zac Gallen, and maybe we'll see a trade thrown in there on top of it. Cody Bellinger, nothing. So far, what we've had is just the waiting game. And that puts people a little bit on some pins and needles, not from those where you're in agony. It's just you want this to come to an end. And at some point it's going to have to. I mean, spring training, it's February in less than 2 weeks, Zach. Did you realize that?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, especially with the World Baseball Classic, everything's moved up a little bit. I mean, yeah, I was just in 3 weeks, everyone's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
It flies.
It flies. Well, what's not flying is contracts and deals. And the name that I thought we'd see more, obviously, it was Framber, because he is still the one pitcher that we can say wants a long-term deal, that probably still earned a long-term deal. But now what happened with Ranger Suarez, he wants years and probably some dough. Would he come down from those years and less dough to sign? Well, we're still waiting. But that might not be the one that's really kind of keeping things up in the air. Really kind of feels like it's Cody Bellinger again. And I know that we talked about it yesterday, but Zach, I mean, once again, Cody Bellinger's right in the middle of this. And is that the video we have with Ken Rosenthal with Foul Territory, where Ken Rosenthal was just saying, well, the longer this goes on, it's not that the Yankees have made their point, hey, we're not going to move our numbers up anymore. The longer this goes on, maybe a good chance Cody Bellinger is going to be playing somewhere else in 2026 and beyond. Let's play that clip.
Posting, much like what happened with Kyle Tucker, he's expected to sign soon. Is it soon today? Is it soon this week? Is it soon tomorrow? What do we expect for soon, and what do we expect? Do we even know the teams? And we know Yankees, but there hasn't been much other talk other than the Yankees.
I would say soon means within a week. I would expect it's going to happen within a week. We're getting closer to spring training now, believe it or not. And I would imagine not only does Bellinger want resolution, but the teams involved want resolution as well. Now, the question with a guy like Bellinger who lingers on the market is always, well, what's the rest of the market? Who is in there besides the Yankees? And we know the Yankees offer pretty much 5 years, 160, 2 opt-outs, big signing bonus, all these elements to it, no deferrals. It's seemingly a good offer, but could the Mets jump in? They still need a guy like Bellinger. In fact, I've always thought Bellinger was a better fit for them than Tucker simply because of his defensive ability and versatility. So the Mets certainly, after not getting Tucker, could be in the market for that kind of player. And the Blue Jays were the other big bidder for Tucker, 10 years, $350 million, as first reported by John Heyman. So why wouldn't they, with 2 outfielders coming off the books at the end of this season, Varsho and Springer, be involved in Bellinger as well? These are fair questions. And I always caution people on my show and on this show when I write that we don't know the full extent of what's going on. And I'm not trying to say there are mystery teams or anything like that, but usually there is more than one team in a market. And if there wasn't in this case, if Bellinger and his agent, Scott Boras, weren't trying to work things, then he would just take the Yankees deal, I would assume. But apparently they believe there might be something else out there, and who knows what that might be.
Certainly, he's looking for a better deal elsewhere. They're trying to up that price up because Kyle Tucker just got almost $60 freaking million a year. And so I don't blame that Cody Bellinger and Scott Boras are trying to get more dough. But it is crazy to me that here we are and we're still trying to figure this out. Now, Cody's going to get paid. We talked about yesterday, I don't have to go into more length. I still don't know what this looks like if he doesn't go back for the Yankees. Like, that's a big loss in my opinion. But clearly the Yankees are saying, we'll be fine either way, but we're not going to play this bidding war. So if he goes to the Mets, I see your eyes, and goes to the Blue Jays, okay. And then someone's saying, well, maybe he'll go somewhere else. Well, I don't know. I mean, like teams like the Phillies who wanted Bichette and didn't get them. Dave Dombrowski, their president, just came out and said, hey, we're content. We don't need to go out and get another marquee player. And just like that, they're done. I know people in Baltimore are hoping that's not the case. We know how that reaction would be. But Zach, I mean, I don't blame trying to maximize it, but this has to be coming to an end here in the next few days? At what point does it just become where you have to make a decision? And at one point does a team, like the Yankees, whatever their final offer is, it's done? Because we are getting close. We're getting very close. And this move for Cody Bellinger, he's drastically going to impact, if it is the Mets, the Yankees, or the Jays. That's a huge move. Two of those three in the AL East, that's a huge move as far as how you look at the division.
Yeah. We talked about it yesterday. Yankees can say all they want. Cody, you don't take it, we're good. Like, my friend, you go do your thing. We're going to be fine without you. They're not. I hate to break it to the Yankees. That offense was very Aaron Judge and friends like last year. You take away the second best hitter in that lineup, Giancarlo Stanton gets a year older. You're expecting, once again, to have career years match from Trent Grisham and Jazz Chisholm. Cody Bellinger was a constant in that lineup, not only offensively, but defensively. A lot of versatility, and you know what you're going to get from him. I think we're getting to the point where I don't want to sit here and say, like, oh, Cody doesn't want to go to New York. He doesn't want to be with the Yankees. But I'm starting to get the feeling that he wants somewhere else a little more. And I'm not saying that he's like, I'm not going to the Yankees. That's not what I'm saying. But as Ken Rosenthal just kind of pointed out, like, the Yankees don't have a bad deal on the table for Bellinger. Like, it's not like they're disrespecting him. That is a really good deal. 5 years, 160, few opt-outs, no deferrals, big signing bonus. It's what you want. It just makes me feel, and I don't know if it's Toronto, I don't know if it's the Mets, anything like that. Maybe it is like the Phillies trying to wiggle their way in, but also playing no, we're not in on anyone, a little mind game. It just, to me, it feels like if Cody Bellinger wanted to be a Yankee, he would have signed that deal already. And maybe it's Scott Boras and him playing the long game to kind of call the Yankees bluff of like, no, you can offer a little more. Because it could be. Maybe he wants to be a Yankee and he's like, hey, Scott, let's get the Mets or the Blue Jays to offer this contract so we can go back to New York and get that deal and I can be where I want. It feels weird that I didn't think Cody Bellinger this late into the offseason would still, one, be out there, but two, with this many questions. Like, I thought at this point we'd know it's the Yankees and so-and-so in a bidding war. It's the Yankees and Mets or the Yankees and Blue Jays. Some resemblance of, okay, we have these final two teams. It feels like Cody's still kind of out there like, hey, if anyone wants to toss me a big contract, I'm open to it.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. When people are talking about, is Cody worth the money? Is Kyle Tucker worth the money? It's irrelevant to this situation. If you think he's a superstar, not a superstar, star, or really good player, solid player, however you want to describe Cody Bellinger, Kyle Tucker, or any player that signs, it's what the team wants to give. And so in this case right now, I value personally as an outsider that is not giving millions and hundreds of millions. Zach?
No, yeah, you weren't looking, but it popped on the screen.
Okay, sorry. Millions of dollars that I still view Cody as an impact player. But I'm not saying he's a superstar. I don't know at times if I'm going to say he's a bona fide star. He was. And then I think he's proving that he's on that high impact to star level now, right? Like, I think that's a fair assessment. Last year, if he does what he did last year, this year, that's star potential, high impact star potential. But he's got to do it again. And he hadn't been consistent doing that. And so teams around Major League Baseball are going, if we were fully set on that we believe you're a star, and like the Yankees are thinking, then we'll give you more money. But we don't fully believe that. But some other team might, or they might give him star money. It's a lot of money. Kyle Tucker got paid more because people are banking on him being from star to superstar during his time. That's why Kyle Tucker signed for that amount of money. It's the perception of what teams think of you. And so that's the holdup here, I think, for Cody. And you're right, Zach. Why not see if you can get a little bit more money out of it? And that will be that. So of the two players that are still looking for long-term deals, Zach, it's Belly, Framber. Those are the two. And people are still trying to figure that out here. And I feel like we can keep talking about that till the cows come home. Why don't we switch to the different player that there was a little insight about, another pitcher that will probably have to go short-term? And that's Zac Gallen, who is still a very good pitcher that had a really rough last year. But because of his situation, Zach, right? And I mean, Ken Rosenthal might have tweeted it, but there's something around Zac Gallen's qualifying offer that is making teams a little bit hesitant. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, to be honest, it's the fact they got the qualifying offer. So now if you're signing Zac Gallen, we've talked about the risk of signing Zac Gallen. Like, yes, the numbers were not great last year. Now, if you want to go second half, he started to look more like Zac Gallen again, but that was definitely not capitalizing on a great contract year to boost yourself. He didn't do what Ranger has done, things like that. And I think teams right now, as you're looking at Zac Gallen is probably going to need a short-term deal, probably 2 to 3 years, opt-outs after each. And he's going to need a decent AAV offer. But now you have to consider, if you're the team, okay, it's a risk to sign him. Shorter deal, more money. Okay, that maybe benefits us a little bit. But now if it doesn't work out, we're also giving up our top draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on different ramifications, now I know you can talk with the Mets. Some people think the Mets are a little scared to sign Framber because of that. They would lose, I think, like their third pick already of the offseason. And that would start to, I think it's up to like $1 million they would lose in international signing bonus. So there are these ramifications that I think these pitchers are dealing with now. And if you're Zac Gallen or a team interested in Zac Gallen, not only are you weighing, hey, is this good for our team right now? Do we want to give up a top, if you're in the top 50, if that would fall there, would you want to give up a top 50 pick for Zac Gallen and that risk? I think that's, I don't want to say what's holding it up, because I think Zac Gallen, eventually a deal gets done no matter what. But I think teams are weighing right now, hey, if we're losing this comp pick because we're signing you after you denied your qualifying offer, I don't want an opt-out after 1 year. I don't want you to just leave after 1 year and suddenly it's like, oh, all right, he's gone, didn't work out, and we lost a draft pick. I just think it's that extra little thing that can come up during a negotiation where things might be going well, and that's like, hey, we're good to sign. He's like, yeah, I need that opt-out, though, after year 1 and 2. And they're like, not with that qualifying offer. If we're losing, this isn't just we're signing you, you're adding to the team. It is also losing that qualifying offer. So I don't think it's a major thing holding him back. If a team wants Zac Gallen, they're going to go get Zac Gallen. But I think with how the market's going right now, with also now obviously it's between he and Valdez, a team is going to need to be comfortable with that. And I think they're probably weighing their options right now and whether or not it's worth it. I wouldn't be surprised if Zac Gallen isn't signed until February. I mean, I say that now, and he'll be signed as soon as we get off, because that's literally as soon as we get off. And I'm sure it will be the Orioles, so we have to go live again. But I do just think that that's maybe a big issue with Zac Gallen, because he's going to need a shorter AAV or shorter years, more AAV to probably offset that didn't have the greatest year last year. He wants to get back on the market, but our team's going to want him to go back on the market if I'm giving up a pick to get you. Mm-hmm. I think it's that tiny little hump they got to get over at the end of the negotiation.
No, it's just one more thing. It's one more thing, one more wrinkle.
And those things add up. I mean,
it does. I mean, right now, Zach, there's still guys that are waiting with the Bellinger situation. Sorry, with the Framber situation, then there's Zac Gallen. With Bellinger, then there's Harrison Bader, right? Who's still waiting around. He's still out
Harrison
there.
Bader's out there.
So, like, Bader's a very solid player. Cody Bellinger, there's a seismic difference as far as value there, but these guys are still waiting. Teams are going to need these players. Some have to, maybe they wait for an injury or wait for an opportunity. Well, hell, former Oriole Jorge Mateo is going to the Braves because of an injury that just happened, right? Yeah. Was it Kim got hurt and training and whammy?
No, it wasn't training.
Oh, it wasn't? What was it?
He was back home in Korea and slipped on ice.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, slipped on ice and broke his wrist or something.
So So what I was going with is freak accident. Yeah. Damn. I didn't know what that details, but right there, Jorge Mateo then gets vaulted up and they have to sign. So I think teams either get desperate and they got to make a move, or they just got to make a plan to move on and start their season. Time's ticking here. You guys hear me talk about this all the time. Time is ticking. Teams want to make decisions. Teams want to make moves. And because of how slow this has gotten, this is going to possibly bleed into February. I mean, we're running out of days in February. It's close. It's January 20th. But also means baseball's happening and things have to get done. They have to. Because if not, no, it's not even, if not, they will. Like at some point, they have to get done. These are too valuable players to not be playing in 2026. They're going to be on a field somewhere with some team. But for everyone's cases, some teams are going to be ready to move off. And that's why I brought up the Phillies. The Phillies were in. They didn't have a pivot after Bichette in this case. At least that's what they're saying. That could change. But they're saying, we're good. We wanted Bichette, but now if that's it, that's it. We're not going to go out there and wait, and we're getting ready for 2026. So, and for all of us, we'll just be waiting on what's going to be happening next. If you want to talk more baseball here, guys, I'll be on 6 to 7 on 105.7 The Fan. It'll be on the radio there. It'll be on YouTube as well. Call in over there. Let me know what's happening. But also, keep coming back here every day because we're live 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time to talk football, baseball, life, emotions.
Everything. We'll talk about it.
Financial decisions, gambling decisions. Zach's bet didn't hit yesterday, by the way.
Worst case.
Yeah, it was. It was close. It was close.
It was
Not close enough.
Fantastic game.
It was a great game.
Didn't think it was going to be that good of a game, to be honest.
I was happy it was. And before we continue on some more conversations during this stream, I think we got to head to our auto stream. Oh, look at you right there. You know what, Zach? I'm going to stand up for you. That was some of your best work. Some of your best work right there. But AutoStream Car Care Center, we partnered with them in 2026. They got 10 locations around Maryland. So if you are having any issue with your vehicle, starting off this year, we are able to offer you $50 off at any of their locations for any service. All you have to do is say, hey, saw your ad on the Ryan Ripken show, or just mention the name Ryan Ripken, and they'll give you $50 off any service. Can't combine their previous offers, but they will give you $50 off any service that you need to go in and get taken care of. So we appreciate them. And from our auto stream, let's head back to this stream then, Zach. Sports, things just continue to rock and roll constantly, right? Something's always happening. Something's always going. Last thing to close out the Orioles talk, did you see the alternate hats that came out?
Yeah. Are you a big fan?
No.
Not either.
Not that like they're fine.
It's decent.
They're okay. There's no problem. But if I was going to have a choice between the B, could you maybe find a photo of that real quickly?
Yeah, let me do some research.
So it's a B hat, and maybe I just grew up in a time where actually the cartoon bird or the other bird logo just sing to me more. It really does. I just think, look, I'm all about it, but
because the what's it called is City Connect are over. They're done with City Connect, and they had that white B.
For fans' sake, the organization's sake, for like a health voodoo sake, it's probably best the City Connects are done with. But yeah, like that, it's fine. Like that's not sexy to me. Like would I wear it? Sure.
I would wear like that. It's like not a bad. I just think they're trying to. It literally is just an alternate to the City Connect, is it not? Because that was the white bee.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Ice Cube's hat when we had him on. And
Wait,
Cube
but
was on.
no. I'm not. If we're comparing, this is lower tier without a doubt.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is good. I don't like it's.
I just personally, not my favorite.
No.
Not my favorite. Okay. I like the old bird, like Ice Cube said, with the little bird on it. I like that bird, and I liked in the cartoon bird. I think that's just like the iconic Baltimore. I appreciate the different ideas. Some people are going to like it. They think it's subtle, just the little bee. Oh, it's Baltimore. It's subtle. Hey, it'll do the job. But each of us have our own opinion. I digress. I could, one of these days, Zach, I got to give away all my old stuff and jerseys. Do you want an old Ryan Ripken used Delmarva Shorebirds jersey?
I'm going to pass on that one.
Okay, well, we'll hang it in the rafters one of these days. But if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show, we're live Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube, X, and Facebook. We've had a lot of great guests over the course of time. We're going to continue to have great guests throughout 2026. We try to give you the guests that can give you the best insight into what's kind of happening in the sports world. And then if you're ready early, you just let me know behind the scenes. Just give me a thumbs up. Oh, hell yeah. So we saw this tweet earlier, and we'll bring it on again in a second. But I thought it's just the timing of this. It's incredible. But he's had experience with those close with the Baltimore Ravens. He's had experience in the AFC North, and he's just had experience across the entire National Football League. So let's bring on former head coach Mike Pettine. Mike, you there?
I'm here.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, hey, I appreciate your time. I like to start off with maybe explain a little bit about the NFL journey. So for me in the baseball world, and for me growing up with a baseball family, everyone's rite of passage in baseball was minor league stories. In the old minor league stories, it was out of control. It's gotten better since then. They pay guys all year round. The salary went up from $8,000 a year to, they're making $30,000 minimum a year. Things have changed. When you were starting off, or maybe a moment in your coaching career in the NFL, do you have one that maybe sticks out to you?
Well, I just think the nature of how I got in the league, I was fortunate in the early 90s to be a graduate assistant at the University of Pittsburgh under Johnny Majors, 1993-94. By the way, our tight ends coach and recruiting coordinator, not to get too far off track, was Curt Cignetti of all people. So amazing connection.
Okay,
if you want to stop me there.
No. Finish your story, and then we're going to circle back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I got to know some great people, Matt Cavanaugh being one of them, who ended up on the Ravens staff, and he knew I was pretty good with the tech stuff, and I had reached out. I went and coached high school for a bunch of years. So in 2002, I reached out to him. I was just looking to break into the league, and I sent him a bunch of the computer type work I had done. And he said, listen, it's good timing. We kind of have a third person in the video department job is open. And, Brian Billick has brought 10,000 drawings that were all on a Mac-based platform. They were in McPaint. And the organization was going to all IBM, so they had to convert them all. So they had decided on a program which I knew nothing about. And he said, we're looking for somebody that can convert these drawings from Mac format to PC format. And I told him, of course I know how to do it. So I grabbed a buddy of mine. I was at a high school, and I grabbed a buddy of mine who was the chair of the IT department, and locked him in his room and said, you're not leaving tonight till you show me how to convert this to this. And I did it, and reached out to Matt, and then that ultimately got my foot in the door with Brian and the O2 staff.
So I always love that backstory, because everyone always thinks that, it's you get in there, it's this glorious way, you get more of the opportunities, and whammy, you're going to be a head coach. For you, it was
I was going up in the lift and filming practice, and then when I came down out of the lift, I helped out with Brian threw me in with, he goes, oh, Rex, our D-line coach doesn't have anybody working with him. Why don't you jump in with Rex? So then he and I were joined at the hip for a long time after that. But yeah, circling back on your story too, people think of it's just instant riches. I want to say I was making $20,000 a year or $22,000 a year. My entrance into the National Football League.
That's beautiful, because my salary when I was in the minor leagues for baseball, I got the AAA level, and then I got into the media because, they say, someone takes the jersey off your back at some point. Well, that was for me in 21, 22. But at the time before that, it was $5,000 to $13,000 a year guys were making. That at least was my salary, depending on when you were working your way up. And I just remember it's never glorious and glamorous. It's nice to when you get to some spots. I mean, hell, getting to be a right-hand man then for Rex Ryan, and then go to the Jets, and then heck, being a head coach with the Cleveland Browns, and then having this NFL career where you started off really just you were doing the dirty work, let's just put it lightly.
Sure.
Like you were doing anything, to then rising up the ranks. It's the part that I don't think people recognize enough in this industry. And it's with every job, but more so or not than football. Like you really do some, I mean, you can say whatever you want. It's my show, so I can just say you can just do some shit things. EDC, Eric DeCosta, the GM for the Ravens, he came on and said, Ozzie Newsome saying, you're going to learn soup to nuts. And Eric's like, I was security. I had to clean out frontaled players that just got released. I had to clean out their housing. It's the journey. It's the process, right?
Well, and I think that in reference to that, I think that the Ravens are unique that way. My first 7 years in the league were in Baltimore, and I just thought, hey, this is the NFL. It's the best of the best. Everybody's like this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I went other places till I realized how special things are. And it was largely due to Ozzie and the leadership of Steve Bisciotti. But everything was just so deeply rooted in common sense. It just made things, when you look back on it, just go so much smoother. And when you expose, like in that example with Eric, you expose people to all aspects of the job, you're going to be that much better, as you progress. And that's why I've always had a soft spot coaching wise for guys that kind of started at the bottom, that were doing quality control work, that were because when you break film down, you learn the game. You don't just learn, hey, I'm a quarterback guy or I'm a receivers coach. You got to learn defenses, and you got to learn how to identify fronts and coverages and offensive blocking schemes. And you really got to learn all of it. So I always felt like, those guys paid their dues and also got a pretty good head start on everybody else. And you see a lot of other guys, kind of former players, getting in the league. And that works out great sometimes, but also you get some guys that just aren't prepared because they're kind of born on third base, and then they never really did that work to begin with. And I think they might struggle as a result of it.
So now you got me thinking a little bit here, and people love stories. So since you started with Baltimore and all those years of you learning, you were around some pretty ferocious defensive players. Do you have a story then in those years in Baltimore where you were sitting there and maybe it was a practice, maybe it was a game that maybe you still remember now? Because you're right. You went on and defense was obviously became then your calling card as you were in the National Football League. But the early roots, you were around some dogs in Baltimore there.
Yeah, I'd have to say I was spoiled a little bit being around, three guys, first ballot Hall of Famers, and Jonathan Ogden is right up there with Ray and Ed as, maybe the best to ever play his position along with those other two. So certainly, was spoiled that way, but it was special to be around those guys, and Ray especially. When you talk about leadership nowadays, there are a lot of guys that can kind of beat their chest and be vocal, and they'll lead by example some. And just about every team has guys that are like, hey, follow me. Ray was a follow me or else kind of guy, and you just don't see that many like that anymore in the league.
Yeah, that's a good phrase right there. Hey, follow me, but then Ray, follow me or else. And people didn't want to see the or else or face the wrath of Ray Lewis And there was that energy that he brought to Baltimore. And obviously it was part of the identity, play like a Raven, and so on and so forth. I know we mentioned the Kurt Cignetti tight ends reference. That's how we're going to end this time.
Okay.
We'll end with that, because the fact that Zach and I's head just went through a whirlwind there. I'm like, of course that's Indiana just wins this whole damn thing. They go the perfect season. And then you're like, oh yeah, by the way, tight ends coach, the connection. All right. There's a tweet here. All right. I don't know if you've seen this. Zach, we'll pull this up. So can you confirm that these were coaches on your staff? Kyle Shanahan, Aaron Glenn, Jeff Hafley, Weaver, McDaniel, LaFleur. Is that accurate?
Yeah, those names are familiar.
Okay. So for those that don't know, this was your staff when you were head coach of the Cleveland Browns in 2014.
Correct.
Maybe it was 10 years too early, but Kyle Shanahan, he's doing his thing out there in San Fran. Aaron Glenn's the head coach of the Jets. Hafley just got named the Packers, Dolphins, Packers coordinator, now Dolphins head coach. Weaver's got a second interview with some places. McDaniel was a head coach. I mean, did you realize that the amount of minds, I just want to give you a round of applause right there. Hell of a staff right there, Mike.
Obviously at the time I didn't realize. For me, it was just all about hiring quality coaches. And there isn't, people have asked me about this. There really isn't any one thing or anything magic about it. It's just being a great coach. There's an it factor to it. And all the guys on that list had it. But I do think one of the common things and I think this is something that's missing in the league today, and not to even expand it to society. But none of the guys on that list are afraid to have a hard conversation. Mm. And I think that's what's missing in sports today, is that it's okay to look somebody in the eye and say, you know what, that's not good enough. I mean, as long as it's done in a respectful manner, just the resistance to criticism at times is, I think, is just a major hindrance for a lot of organizations. And that's why I always wanted, I didn't want to, obviously none of those guys I would consider, even anywhere near the realm of being a jerk, but you want guys that can step up and they're going to set a standard. They're going to present it. Hey, here's what it's supposed to look like. And it's their job to, hey, your idea of what's good enough has to match my idea of what's good enough. And those are the great coaches, are the ones that can get their players through a variety of methods. Everybody's different, but to get their players to that point.
Well, you got to face off against two of those coaches in John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, who ironically then that era ends this year in the last 2 weeks, in back-to-back weeks, where that's the change of a guard. But I would say then, or maybe you could attest to it, those would be two examples of leaders. You don't stay that long if you can't command and have the hard conversations. And quite frankly, they had a lot of success over those years too.
Oh, without a doubt. Two great examples, but it's also guys that can adjust over time. You look at the players that were coming into the league back in, not to make anybody feel old, but I was on Harbaugh's first staff. He was a rookie head coach. Joe Flacco was our rookie quarterback. And then, John, I can just see his evolution over time. And then, certainly, having faced, Tomlin, unfortunately for me, my career in Cleveland was my first game loss. And the day I got fired, Pittsburgh, last game loss. So he kind of bookended my career in Cleveland. But both those guys, there's a reason they lasted for as long as they did. And that was a big part of it, is they could identify talent, but they could also work well with other people. And I think that's a big part of it. I've seen a lot of coaches that were, if it was an individual sport or they could coach on an island, they'd be great. Mm-hmm. But when you have to factor in and bring other people into the mix and whether it's players or whether it's personnel or management, and take complex football terms and being able to explain them to different people in ways that they'll understand and it'll be actionable for them. That's a special skill, and it's obvious that they both have it.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned the Harbs connection, because that's where I was going to go to next. And, you know, I think you can understand this because you lived it. And my goal is to try to have people understand the pressures, the stress, you know, even though it's a business, right? Like, you know, you don't win games, they make decisions and they move on, they fire people, or have to cut players. It's a business at the end of the day. You know, John Harbaugh at the presser today, and I've gotten to know, you know, the Harbaugh family, and John, you know, I grew up in Baltimore. Mike, the name Ripken in Baltimore, a lot of people recognize that, but I would say in Baltimore, the Harbaugh name, that was 18 years. So I would say, like, that's been a huge part of the community. But in some cases, it felt like the fan base, half the fan base was ready for him to go. They felt like the team was underperforming, and there was a stress, there was constant criticism. And maybe you can attest to this. It's got to weigh on you, right? Like when you were in Cleveland and you're trying to figure things out, you know, you're trying to figure out your roster. And at your time, you're going back, you're trying to figure out your roster construction and situation, and also understanding the outside noise because fans want you to win. I almost felt like seeing John today, he was almost like a relief. Not that of course he wanted to win a Super Bowl in Baltimore, but also now that it's over, he's got Jackson Dart as a young quarterback with the Giants. It's a fresh start. And it looked like this year really weighed on him. Can you maybe relate to what that feels like, or what that is when you're constantly dealing with that much internally as a head coach?
It's a lot, but you know, it's why, you know, the paychecks are what they are. I mean, you're not going to get any sympathy cards from people around the league with the problems that you're dealing with. But you know, it's a big time balancing act between, you know, issues with, you know, you're just dealing. It's, you know, coaching, and the analogy I've always given when I was a coordinator with the Bills and then got hired to be the Browns head coach. You're really going from being a professor or a master teacher to being the principal. It's really you're 80-90% football and teaching and coaching when you're a coordinator or position coach. But when you become the head coach, most of the time that, you know, a lot of the stuff that you have to deal with has nothing to do with football. And obviously, if you can hire, if things are good around the building and a lot of that stuff's under control, and then that won't be as big a deal. But you know, unfortunately for me in Cleveland, it wasn't. There were a lot of issues that I had, you know, a lot of fires that needed to be put out other places, and that gets frustrating because you want to get in, you want to coach, and then the time you finally have to do it, you just feel like you walk in the staff room and you're an outsider. It's hit and run coaching, so it's really important to be able to carve out that time to coach. But you're dealing with PR, you're dealing with ownership, you're dealing with the medical staff, you're dealing with the weight room, marketing, you know, the media stuff, the nutritionist, you know, everything from A to Z involved with a football program that crosses your desk as a head coach, whether you like it or not, or hopefully you can delegate it to somebody that you really trust. So I think that's always a transition that I think, as you see, some guys can't handle it very well, is that they were great coordinators, but then struggle when they're sitting in the head coaching chair, whereas other guys where they handle it really well, just because of, and a lot of it's what I already mentioned, the organizational skills, and more importantly, people skills.
Is there one thing in particular, though, is harder for you personally to try to handle?
Yeah, I just think the age-old issue in the NFL is the relationship between personnel and coaching. This is very different from college football. College football, the coaches are kings of the kingdom. They recruit, they decide who they want on their team. They decide who we're going to offer scholarships to, you know, who we're going to move on from, who, you know, especially in today's day, who we're going to offer NIL money to. But the coaches control the roster. Yeah. Virtually every NFL team is not that way, whereas there's a personnel department, and this is why the Ravens are so special. That I felt like that for years that the personnel department, and Ozzie made sure of it, and the coaching staff were completely in sync on opinions on players. So, just to give an example of something Ozzie would do, if there was a wide gap between a scout's grade and a coach's grade on a particular player, he would assign more coaches and more scouts to look at that player, and in the next meeting would circle back, and the explanation would be like, well, why did the coach see him a certain way versus why did the scout see him a certain way? And those were all teachable moments. So everybody in the room understood. They heard, hey, listen, this is really what we're looking for in an offensive lineman. Or the scout would be like, hey, listen, this is what I'm looking for from a movement standpoint or from a measurable standpoint. But every one of those instances added up over years, that constantly closed the gap, so that the coaches' grades and the scouts' grades were virtually in sync. And I'm sure to this day they still are, because they do such a good job of, obviously continuity. They're not rolling through a ton of coaches, and I think that's is one of the secrets that the Ravens, one of the reasons they've been so successful, because when you're a new staff, you got to go in, and we did it as a staff in Cleveland. I've done it other places I've been, but you got to make position profiles. This is what an outside linebacker is to us. This is what an inside defensive tackle looks like. This is what a safety is. And your opinion, your view of what you're looking for there might not necessarily be what personnel has learned to do it. This is very different from baseball. We're all not looking for the same, right-handed hitting second baseman. I mean, obviously there's some subtleties in styles of play baseball-wise, but football it varies wildly. Hey, what kind of offensive line scheme are we? Or are we more zone scheme where we're looking for guys that can really move? We're looking for gap scheme, big heavy guys. So the key thing there is closing that gap in the education, and that to me is, the Ravens are the ones that probably do it the best.
Yeah, the schemes of that in football. I mean, look, I'm not an X's and O's guys for football. I love to learn more. I analyze a ton. If we want to go down a rabbit hole one time about baseball, that I know. I had to sit at the table with my dad, be like, hey, let's talk cutoffs and relays in the seventh inning of the Rays versus the Red Sox. I'm like, do I really have to? I'm 11. And we did. I'm sure you can do that when it comes to football, right? Now, when
I grew up. My dad was a high school coach for 30 plus years, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
You get it. Now, the one thing is, if a player's just damn good, you can be like, hey, we know he's really good. We want really damn good players. Like you had Joe Thomas. You mentioned Jonathan Ogden. You're to go left tackle right there. You're going to do your thing. Go ahead. That's just some guys just have that ability. But you're right. It's filling out.
But how many of those guys do you have on a team?
Well, that's why there's only so many Hall of Famers that go in, and that's why there's only so many superstars.
And that, right? To me,
exactly
is where the coaching staff comes in, and it's one thing I've always stressed to the coaches. And if you want to use it to relate it to the financial part of the NFL, is I always told our coaches, you are judged ultimately on how well your player performs relative to his salary, because we're on a salary cap now. If a player's getting paid C money and he's given A production, kudos to you. But if you got a guy that's making A money and he's giving you B minus, C plus production, that's a problem. Now the issue with that, and this is one of the age-old why there's a lot of tension in a lot of buildings between personnel and coaching, is the coaches don't get to decide necessarily what those players are getting paid. Mm-hmm. So that was the way we always looked at it. And when you talk about the Joe Thomases, I always like coaches like, okay, it's great. Like, hey, I'm a D-line coach. I got 4 first-round picks. I hope those guys will play at a high level. But how do your backups play? When one of the guys breaks a chin strap and somebody has to go in, how well does he play with limited reps? To me, that's the how you judge a coach, not necessarily on how well he coaches first-round picks.
Write that down, Zach. It's not about how your starters and your stars play, but your backups. That tells you how your coaching's going. Couple questions for you, Coach, and we'll get you out of here. Zach, you got one for Coach?
Yeah, real fast. Coach, you've been in the NFL for over 20 years. From the start to now, if any, how has maybe the way that you've had to coach changed? Because the NFL has obviously changed over that time period. And have you had to maybe alter the way you coach or communicate with players, anything like that throughout your time?
Oh, without a doubt. Where first of all, the rules have changed. So back in 2002, when I first got in the league, you had a lot more time with the players in the off season. There weren't limits on the length of the day. I mean, you could do 3 a days if you wanted in training camp. You had so much more time with them. You didn't have to be as organized probably because there was an abundance of time. But when the rules started to change and the CBAs, they started to tighten down not just the off-season schedule, but the training amount of time you have in training camp. They're at 11-hour days now, where before it was unlimited. And then even during the season, how long you can be on the field, you have to be certainly a lot more organized. Know what you want to emphasize. It was Brian Billick had a quote always stuck with me: when you emphasize everything, you emphasize nothing. And as a coach, you got to really be able to identify these are the 4 or 5 things that our guys need to know to be successful. Everything else is just fluff. So today's players are a little different. The NIL, I think, is. I think I've heard some coaches refer to some of today's players as NIL babies. We used to joke with them, especially guys coming from the SEC in years past, like, hey, you're taking a pay cut to come to the NFL. Now they literally are taking a pay cut to come to the NFL, some of those guys. So that's certainly, and it's such a recent thing. I know that there'll be some growing pains, dealing with some of those situations.
So we mentioned about how coaching has changed, and I appreciate your time too. I could talk to you about styles and philosophies all day long. Like, this is right down to my core with this. Your staff in 2014 has gone on to be head coaches, had success. Some will probably get second opportunities, but there is still one name on there that we hadn't talked about yet. And I just wanted your perspective on him, because he was here again with John Harbaugh, and then he just went to Miami to be the defensive coordinator, and his name's been brought up over and over again, and that's Anthony Weaver. What could you tell people that don't know a lot about Anthony Weaver of why teams are so interested in him? I have my opinions, but you spent the time with him. Could you maybe give a little bit of understanding of why teams believe he can lead their squads moving forward?
Well, he's credibility with the players, having played, for a long time at a high level. I mean, I was on the Ravens staff. He was the first draft class I was a part of was Weave. He's an excellent communicator. He loves football. And I think that's something that you can't fake. Like he is so passionate about it and loves it. And to me, that's contagious. Guys want to be around that, and because he loves it so much, I mean, he is as competitive a son of a gun as you'll be around, whether it was off the field, whether it's shooting hoops or whatever it was. He doesn't like to lose, and that's a trait that you would think everybody would have. Not everybody does. There's too many guys that I've been around coaching wise that are, hey, we're going to try hard. We hope we win, but it's not the end of the world if we lose. Weave's a guy that he loves winning, but he despises losing even more. And I think that's why, people are attracted to him.
I think it's not a matter of if, I think it's a when he's going to get a chance. And if he's not a head coach this go around, well, hell, he might. There's rumors he might join Harbaugh up in with the Giants. I know some people have joked around. For a New York media frenzy, what if John asked Rex Ryan to come back and coach as a defense? That ain't happening, but that would be nuts. That would be insane. I don't know how Rex is still one of my favorite personalities to watch. I always loved how he handled the media in New York. So I would love to see that selfishly, but that's not going to happen. The reports are.
Trust me. If you want to open that can of worms on Rex, that might be a whole week worth of shows.
Oh my goodness.
No, but I know that Rex Rex is a guy who's been around football his whole life, grew up with it, loves it, and just has that great personality, but just a brilliant football mind. I mean, that was one of the best things for me to basically just be, in the office with him, drawing that stuff on the board and trying to figure out what we could do that week and what we couldn't. And I know, him and Harbs had a great relationship. So it's unlikely, but it wouldn't shock me if it happened.
Yeah, Rex Ryan, walking soundbite, go getting a snack. And, I would love to be a fly on the wall for your guys' defensive meetings, because every package that he used to run, you would run. I really wonder, like, how the hell does this work? How do you come up with this? And maybe we can save that for a different time. But to close this out, all right, tell me about Kirk Cignetti for a second. Tell me, did he have that swagger back then?
No.
I win, Google me type of swagger? No, he didn't have that?
Absolutely not. That's why it's fun to watch him now, just to see how much he's grown. He was very mild-mannered, and I would almost use the word nerdy a little bit with how he was. But you could tell. Here's another guy that was a coach's kid. Grew up with it, and I've always had a soft spot for coaches' kids, having been one, or being one myself. So when you were around Kurt at Pitt, I don't think there's no way you would look at him and say, wow, that he's destined for greatness. And however many 30 some years later.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of this, right? Is in this case, 30 years ago or whatever it may be, you might not be able to fully see the vision. Other people might not fully see the vision. And hell, here we are then in 2026. Indiana is a football powerhouse, and Kirk Cignetti is one of the most confident coaches in football. And yet also they pulled off one of the best sports stories, not football stories, sports stories, taking one of the worst programs in college football history to being national champion. So
but his confidence is for a reason. And I think that's what makes him so outstanding as a head coach. I mean, you're confident because you're extremely prepared. I mean, you know all the scenarios that can happen. You know your information inside and out. So we always tell players, like, listen, you want to have swagger, great, but be confident because you know the material, and it's like walking in on a test knowing you're going to crush it.
I like that. Know your material. So it's a test. I got to be honest. Sometimes when it came to actual test as a teenager, that was hit or miss for me. I was a very good student, by the way, Mike. Don't judge me too much. I do my homework, but don't roll your eyes over there. Okay, Zach, we don't need to talk about your issues.
But is Zach trying to bring down the show again? Because I know I know the show started that way.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just had to, the good student wasn't always on time.
But, he wanted to get
in the classroom.
He was a good student. You were a good student when you wanted to be.
So yeah, here's this thing. Okay, time out. It's almost you learn yourself, right? And let's go back to Kurt Cignetti here for a second. Maybe he's a little nerdy, maybe he doesn't have that confidence, and then you evolve and you grow and you realize what your potential could be. That's how I view myself. The potential is always there. Yeah. You learn as you go. You never made a mistake, Zach, as a teenager?
Far too many in the class.
There you go. Okay. I don't want to hear it. I went off to college and I did fine. Okay. Mm-hmm. I actually was an A student in college for a long time, but it's, so on this show, we've learned how to handle our emotions. We learned that confidence can happen over time. A couple weeks ago, Todd Monken came on and gave me marriage advice, Mike. So, I mean, if you wanted to throw any other thing before I let you go that I need to know about life.
Well, I got a great Rex Ryan quote when it comes to marriage, because I'm very fortunate. I learned this, told me this a long time ago, and it's so true, that there's two kinds of coaches' wives, great ones and ex ones. And I'm very fortunate to have a great one.
Mike, I'm gonna be honest. I was thinking, where was this going? And that was right to the point. Damn. There's great ones and ex ones. Todd Monken's advice was, it's 4th and 1 every
day.
play, every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day is 4th and 1.
Every day is 4th and 1. That was Todd's motto to me. He also said he'd charge $300 an hour if he doesn't get another job next year. So
For marital advice.
yeah, this is Mike.
I do have one other piece of marital advice that's outstanding when it comes to sports relationships.
Please help.
And
I'm
this-
just
this-
newly married.
This has saved my wife and I so much grief. Is when it comes to my work, she's not allowed to get more upset about something than I am. And that has saved us, I think, a lot of grief, because I've seen a lot of other coaching or even players and their wives' relationships go in a bad direction when the significant other seemed to be more upset about, making noise about an issue than the player or coach was.
I like that. I don't know if coaching, I got to make a decision on my future. I think the media side, I'm going to rock with this for a while. And I like to go behind the scenes. I was asked today about coaching, of getting, would I ever want to do that? I'm still young, Mike. Everyone thinks I'm older. Do I even want to ask you how old you think I am? I'm afraid.
32.
That's the best
Did
answer
you
you've
look?
gotten.
Did you do your homework before this show, Mike?
No, but you obviously, the way you set it up, you're saying, like, based on your receding hairline, I was going to think you're 40. And when you said it that way, I'd say you're going to look younger. So I went with a lower number. Well, how close am I?
Oh, no, you're
Nailed
right.
it.
You're spot
Nailed
on.
it.
I'm 32. But then you had to throw in the reason why you thought I was older was right to the zinger hairline.
Well,
Damn. Hey, you know what? If I'm lucky, I can pull off the look that you have right now. But I don't know if I can.
yeah, this happened a long time ago. I called it the Italian curse. It was, the hair was falling out of my head, but landing on my back and starting to grow again. So it needed to get shaved. That was 20 years ago.
But you know what? You look good. Like that's a look. If I could say wholeheartedly that I can pull this off, I would feel good. But I got these caterpillar for eyebrows. I think I got dropped on my head, so there's like a little bit of a misshape on the back. But you know what?
Just gotta go for it.
Yeah, I'll just put a hat on. That's all I'll do. But Coach, next time then, we'll screw all the football talk. Maybe we just go X's and O's, and we'll theme the show. We'll just theme off of life, because I think that'd be a lot of fun as well. But anything that you wanted to plug or talk about before I let you out of here?
No, I mean, I just, I was in coaching for 37 years and 23 in the NFL, and decided, this was the time for me to step away. I don't know if it's anything that I would deem as permanent, but I just think I've seen too many coaches that have kind of hung in it for too long, and there's so many people, family especially, that have supported you along the way that you just don't get to spend a lot of quality time with. And whether it's an aging parent, or whether it's, we get, my wife and I have 4 grandkids now, that we're at the point now where our time is more important than money, and we want to take advantage of that. We're fortunate that we're able to, and who knows, down the road I might look to get back in, but sometimes when you jump off the hamster wheel, you look back at it, it might not be as attractive looking to jump back on. So no, I'm certain, and I'm glad I was able to do this and kind of, pay homage to the Ravens, because that's really where I got my start. It's just such a great base of not just coaching, but just running an organization and the common sense aspect of it. Baltimore will always be have a special place in my heart.
I didn't want to say that this would, your coaching journey, and I'm glad you mentioned it that way. You don't know if it's going to be permanent. You'll see where life takes you. But if it is, if this is it for you, it's been a hell of a run. I'll always love that there's traces back to Baltimore, and I am biased, but it's true when you have other people talk about it. The Ravens, they are a special organization. And I love the fact that you turned out to be one of those tech guys just trying to figure it out, and you ended up having decades long of an NFL career that you probably didn't even imagine. And then in the meantime here, you've helped me figure out some other things that I'm adding to my notebook on life lessons. So I appreciate it, Coach.
Oh, I appreciate it. Again, like I said before, I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Hey, take care. Look forward to talking to you next time. And I will text you next time. We're going to have some notes of maybe if it's not marital advice, or some other things that you are specialize in that you can help me with. Probably.
Fishing.
Okay. Ooh. All right. That will be for the next time then, Coach. But you enjoy yourself, enjoy family time, and have a great rest of your day, okay?
Will do. Thanks, Ryan.
Coach Mike Pettine, everybody. Hey, he was spot on with the age. The hairline for me, it always goes back to the hairline.
Well, the worst was still Stokely. Stokely saying 52 was rough.
Dude, you know what? I was going to text Stokely to go, hey, dude, you want to come on this week? I don't know if I want to give him the time of day now.
That
was fighting words right there. Those were fighting words from Brandon Stokely there. But overall here, and if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. At the end of the day here, what I love is going behind the curtain. You know this, Zach. Our goal is you get to understand the ins and outs. You get to understand what goes down. And also the journey of where you have to get to and how it's done is not necessarily how it seems. And you learn from it. It might not be the answers you might expect, but I'll guarantee you it's the answers that you want to hear. I love the fact of right there that you got to do some dirty work. And for Mike starting in Baltimore, and that's where that's how it started to become the right-hand man for Rex Ryan and then turn out to be a head coach. That's phenomenal. Those are little things. Zach, you're going to write a book about this of you starting with me, because we're going to continue growing this sucker, buddy. And you're like back in that day when Ryan saw me do,
me, the tech guy.
Yeah. Well, the Oriole Magic video, and then you get a random DM from me. I think that's how it started. I saw one of your tweets.
Yeah.
I sent you a message.
DM me. And here we are 3 years later.
Sliding into Zach's DMs.
Actually, if we want to go real story, I asked you to come on my podcast, and we had agreed on a time.
Oh.
And then, or we had agreed to do it in a few weeks, and then we just never did anything. And then like 2 months later, you messaged me and were like, hey, would you want to do something? And I'm like, yeah, let's see what happens.
Do you still want to do that podcast interview?
Yeah, if we could do the Frat Leads pod after this, I'll ask you about the 2023, your favorite moments of the season.
You want to bring that back? That's wild. That will be funny one day.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
Crazy. And hey, I'm glad you guys enjoyed the interview. That was phenomenal for us. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. And if you are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We are live Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And I think we hit everything except one more time. We got to go from this stream to you were on at Auto Stream. Hey, $50 off, guys, when you mention Ryan Ripken at Auto Stream Car Care Center. They got 10 locations in Maryland. Take us up on this offer. We all have car issues at one point or another. Go there. Get the $50 off by mentioning Ryan Ripken. And if you don't trust that offer, well, trust all the Google reviews. They have a tremendous track record. And just tell them I say hello while you're at it. Now, from that stream back to this stream, amazing. Zach, I ain't even told you who we might be having on tomorrow. And I can't tell our rest of our group yet because I still got to figure this out.
Should be fun.
Think you're – whoa.
I feel like I just broke the fourth wall by hitting two. There's Ryan's salad from earlier.
Yeah. Your boy was humming. Your boy was just chomping. It's fantastic. All right. I got to go get ready for the Hot Stove Show. Channel members, maybe I'll drop you a little bit of a hint on who our guest is tomorrow, because guess what? Is there a Baltimore Ravens connection? There might be. Is there a Super Bowl connection? There might be. Is there a head coach connection? Well, there might be. Stay tuned tomorrow, Zach. Let's cue the music. As always here on the Ryan Ripken Show, we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to Cordell Woodland. Thank you to Coach Mike Pettine. Thank you all for watching. Have a day, have a night. Come back and join us tomorrow on Wednesday, right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook. It's the Ryan Ripken Show.